Hello, our dear listeners. This is a podcast for a platform called Polsted, a platform where Europe's young voices are heard. I'm going to be your host today. My name is Liza Imadashvili. Hopefully, by the time this comes out, my first podcast with my co host Mariam about volunteering abroad will be already out. So I decided to follow that chain, and today's topic will be, I think, especially interesting for our younger listeners, especially from a third world countries. Today's topic, as you guessed from the title, is studying abroad. I'm personally from a third world country, Georgia to be exact, and this topic has always been very popular, at least in the social bubble I grew up in. My family put me in a German private school from the very first grade, where many, and in some cases, most graduates immediately went abroad for university. And very quickly, I noticed a pattern. People viewed this topic very differently. Some people criticize the students for leaving their homeland for, and I quote, another country's heaven, while others praise them for being motivated and disciplined enough to have this opportunity. But before we get into social pressure, I like to talk about the hardships and the highlights of studying abroad. Before we start, a small disclaimer. Some of the advice or experiences I will discuss might not apply to everyone because every situation, every country, every individual is unique. So there is no universal advice I can give. If you clicked on this episode, you're probably already interested in this topic. So the first question is, when do I leave? Do I go right after school, after my second or first year, or only after I complete my bachelor's during my master's? It all depends on your mental and financial readiness because you're not just leaving your family or your friends, you're leaving your environment, your routine, and a part of your identity. And that can feel very different depending on the person. For some, it's exciting, for others, it's overwhelming. You're starting from scratch. New people, new systems, new expectations, and especially if you're moving far away, cultural differences can feel very real. Every country has its own mentality, and adjusting to that takes time. So, when do you leave? Let's start chronologically, leaving straight after high school. Before we go into disadvantages, I think this is a very brave decision. You're closing a huge chapter of your life and immediately starting a new one in a completely unfamiliar environment, most likely without your usual support system, takes a lot of courage. But let's dive into disadvantages. I think in this case, language is a major factor. You have to ask yourself, are you fluent enough to study in that language? Because academic stress will be high enough, especially if you're on a scholarship. So it's important to consider that. Me personally, I'm currently in 11th grade, and I am considering leaving right after high school. And even now, I realize how much responsibility that requires. You suddenly have to manage your life independently in a completely new environment. That is not easy. But of course, there are also positives. You get a fresh start, you can build a new identity in a place where nobody knows you. Academically, you adapt early to the education system of your chosen country, and especially for people like me from third world countries, you gain access to higher quality education right away. It also builds discipline and forces you out of your comfort zone very early, and I think that is very important for personal growth. Leaving during your bachelor's. This is a very common experience, especially from where I am from. Many people start studying locally and then transfer or go on exchange programs. The difference is when you transfer for the rest of your degree, the rest of your bachelor's, but when you do exchange programs, it's usually a year. The advantage is that you already understand how university works, you've had time to adjust, and you likely had your support system nearby. You also probably didn't face a strong language barrier at the beginning if you're doing your bachelor's in your native country, in your native language, I mean. Another big advantage is flexibility. Many people get the chance to experience multiple education systems through exchanges, but there are also downsides. By this point, you've already built a life, new routines, new friendships, and if you're considering transferring, leaving that behind can be difficult. Also, depending on country and university, some of your previous studies might not fully transfer, which can feel like wasted time on what stage in your life you're at. What matters most is not when you leave, but why you leave. Are you running away from something? Are you moving towards something? Studying abroad is not just about education. It's about independence, identity, growth, and really just building your life. And no matter when you choose to do it, it will change you in ways you probably can't fully predict yet, and no one can. And I think that's the most scariest and most exciting part. Really, you just have to decide yourself by really getting to know yourself and setting your goals.